So in this video I want to explain to you how I created this really organic textured sample, and it has a real ambience to it. I'm going to go over every plugin and VST I used and explain how and why I did what I did. So I'm currently working on a new kit where I'm running sounds through my Hologram Microcosm, and I used this acoustic guitar. It's a classical nylon, but I basically ran some voice memos, some recordings from my iPhone of that acoustic guitar through my microcosm, and one of the sounds I got is this one, and I'm going to play it to you without any of the plugins just so you have an idea of what it sounds like. So it has a cool chop effect to it, and with all the plugins, these are the ones I used, with the sound shifter going down 3 semitones at halftime with a full wet mix, RC20 for the classic kind of tape vinyl-y sound. It's some UAD AE compression and a bit of multi-band compression where I'm cutting out some of the lows, I'm compressing some of the mids and compressing the highs as well even more, so it sounds like this now. Now the next texture, I've done the same thing, taken a sound that was initially an acoustic guitar recording and it sounded like this with no plugins. So just some chops at the end just so it has that kind of texture to it, and I've pretty much added the exact same plugins and together they sound like this. Now, two really important layers I've added, just these ambient snow kind of vinyl crackle textures that I got from Splice, and they just sound like this. And you can see I even made the same sort of chops on these ambient textures as I did the guitar ones. The last two textures are just some swells, and this first one actually comes from this texture. But all I've done is just kind of cut it, chopped it, and added some delay and added a fade, so it created this kind of swell. So that delay just helps carry it over. And I've done a similar thing here with this texture, and it just sounds like this. So together. Now the main new layer here is obviously the bass, and that was just from the Modo bass VST. I just kept it on the 60s P bass and I didn't change any of the settings in the VST, and this was the pattern that I played. All I did was added this double tracking preset from the RC20, which really just added some wobble. I adjusted the width so it sounded very kind of narrow and mono sounding, and just taking this Q4, which was just dipping some of the more muddy frequencies. And another key texture that I have in this section is another guitar layer that I've run through the microcosm, and I've just added some halftime to it. You can see I haven't got a full wet mix on it. I've added a bunch of delay and I've cut out up to 500 hertz of the lows. It actually reminds me a lot of that kind of guitar harp type texture that you hear in the song Good Days by SZA. It just gives it that really dreamy effect, and that's mostly just because of the delay that's on it as well. It just strums out into the sort of like the atmosphere of the sample. You know, it doesn't take up all the center space of the sample, it just sits nicely in the background. And I've added this percussive loop, which is from my Imagine drum loop pack, so it just sounds like this without any of the plugins. Very cool kind of experimental drum loop that I created. I didn't even use the sound shifter, to be honest, and what I did was cut out most of the highs, most of the lows, so it was like this, and then with a bit of delay, adding some compression, and cutting out more lows to the EQ. And I took just a slightly different chop here. This is also from that same gazelle texture that I created, and it just sounds like this without any of the plugins. It's kind of just got this reverse effect going back and forth, so it's a bit of a call and response with the halftime, with it being pitched, and a bit of the RC20. It just sounds like this. So that halftime is just carrying it over those gaps that you see. It has just a slight swell at the end. So similar to before, those swells just help carry it over to the next section. And then we've got the next section, which introduces a synth, and it's a very kind of subtle background layer, but it does add a lot more to the melody of this piece and just still gives the piece a lot of room and space for drums and a vocal to shine. And it pretty much goes into the same kind of just stripped back version of the first verse. So the synth that you hear in this layer actually comes from this Prophet 5 VST. This is from Arturia, and I used the Captain Jack Sparrow preset, and it just sounds amazing. Now this is what I played. It's just got some delay, some reverb. So that run, that's the motif. Those last couple notes just give it a nice kind of transition to repeat again. So really, again, all I've added is a bunch of reverb on it, and I've cut out some of the highs, most of the lows, so it's not in the way of the bass. And I've got that delay going as well, not too much, but just enough to give it that spacey kind of carrying over effect. And you can see I've taken the same drum texture, the same drum loop of mine, but I've just chopped it up a bit, so there's just a bit of variation and a lot more space in this section. I've also got this texture playing here, and this is another texture from my upcoming Microcosm kit, and coupled with this little like glitchy swell that has pancake on it, which just gives it a bit of a panning effect and just some delay, and together they sound like this. So very, very simple, subtle, but also impactful textures together. So they just complement each other really nicely. Again, that same layer from earlier with the synth. And the synth, I've not done too much other than cut out a lot of the lows using the EQ, using a multi-band compression. I've also sidechained it so that it's just not clashing so much with this texture here, because they're in a similar frequency range. Added this baby comeback delay, which is from Baby Audio. And I added some more EQ, cutting out up to 500 Hertz on the lows here, and some tape delay on the synth. So very simple sample using a lot of kind of organic sounds that I've run through the microcosm. And I've been able to get a lot of amazing textures and sounds and just cool chops using the Hologram Microcosm, and I can't wait to release that kit because I've already been using it so much and it's not quite ready yet. I want to add a lot more sounds to it, but stay tuned for that. I'm running live kalimba, guitar, and a bunch of other instruments and synths through it as well. So lastly, on the master, I've just pitched the project up 2 semitones, just using a multi-band compression to dip some of the low mids, some of the mids, and boost some of the highs, but using the expand setting just so it feels a bit wider. It is very atmospheric sample, so it makes sense. And then I've got the classic ARTG mastering plugin, which I like to use, and I've just boosted some of the input to make it louder and added a little bit on the spreader, boosting some of the mids as well, and just a limiter to make sure it's not clipping. If you want these same drum loops that I've used or some of the textures that are in this, you can check out the links below. You'll see the links to my sounds that I've made myself, and there'll be plenty more to come. Stay tuned for more videos. Let me know if you want to see more samples like this. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.